Welcome to episode 4 of the Monday Review, where I look back at my highlights of the weekend's racing, things that caught my eye, any talking points that might have popped up on my social media. So good racing this weekend, plenty of rain around, which meant plenty of horses running, good action from Wetherby and Ascot in particular. And I suppose it's Wetherby where we should start, where the Grade 2 in name really, West Yorkshire Hurdle was won by Botox Has and Gary Moore, a horse who's got great first time out form, tipped up by my colleague Tom Collins on the SBK betting podcast, pretty much on the basis that the horse has got good first time out form and likes soft ground, and it was an inspired choice really. Gary Moore's yet to really hit his straps, I felt, but he clearly had this one ready. Well ridden by Caelan Quinn, who's a £5 conditional. I was staggered to see that he still claims £5. He seems to have been around for a while and seems to be held in high regard by everyone that sort of knows of him, and yet still claims £5. Was unable to claim £5 here, but did a great job. I liked how he sort of let Rex Dingle and Dashel Drasher do all the donkey work for him. The pace was exactly what Caelan Quinn wanted, but he wasn't having to do the hard work and make the pace himself. He pressurised Dashel Drasher, turning across the top at Wetherby, slipstreamed him up the home straight, and then as Dashel Drasher faded and to my mind got tired, he went on. If you were on red risk for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden, you must have thought you were home for all money. He travelled really well up the home straight, but not for the first time. Didn't find anywhere near as much off the bridle as you would hope. And I would slightly question his resilience. I think you watch it back, two horses going at it to the line. Botox Has, to my eye, definitely wants it just that little bit more than red risk. Be interested to see where they go with Red Risk now. He was still off a mark of 144 here. It was a pretty weak heat, albeit it was a Grade 2. I don't think he's going to get a huge hike in the weights of finishing second to Botox Has. So there might still be juice in his mark. It'd be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. Might take a look at him on handicap movers and shakers. As I said, Dashel Drasher to me just looked like he got tired in the closing stages. And he's really does come on for a run. I know he won at Aintree last year on his seasonal reappearance, but that was a significantly weaker heat than this. He'll have his day. He needs these soft conditions, and I'm sure he'll strip fitter for his next start. To me, Tyne Hill just looks a shadow of his former self. There's no excuses here to my mind. He is a veteran now, really, and he just looked a bit laboured throughout the contest, I felt. Chasing certainly didn't work out for him. I would be surprised if they went back chasing. I think they'll stick at hurdles, and he might find a contest yet. Wouldn't be a surprise to me to see him end up in the Per Temps or something like that at the Cheltenham Festival, where perhaps a strong pace in the big field might just suit him. And then another one of note was Galore, who was having his seasonal reappearance 200 odd days off the track, best known as being a chaser, winner of the Paddy Power Gold Cup last season. He jumped badly, and it's always sort of strange that a horse that goes back jumping hurdles, which are significantly smaller and therefore you would think easier to negotiate, can make such a meal of it. He jumped like a chaser over a few of them, ballooned them, jumped too big. And then at other times, he just showed absolutely no regard and very little ability to organise himself and clattered through more than one or two. That would account for perhaps some of this poor run. But to me, he just never really looked at it. And I'm sure this is a prep run for something over fences, but didn't do an awful lot for me, I have to say. His form tailed off after falling when looking like going very close in the Sky Bet chase last year. His form fell off a cliff, really. He finished the season pulling up at Aintree. And for all that I'm sure this is a prep, it didn't fill me with an awful lot of confidence, I have to say. So he's not one that I'd be chomping at the bit to find out what they've got him lined up for. I'm sure they're looking to go for the Ladbroke Chase or the Coral Trophy Chase, whatever it's called now, the old Hennessy at Newbury, but it wouldn't be for me at this stage on the back of that performance. The Charlie Hall Chase was the feature race of the day, and yet again proof that you don't need big fields to have exciting and enthralling races. Just 4 runners here. Brave Man's Game, runner-up in the Gold Cup last year, was a short price favourite. But if you listen to me on the SBK podcast, I was pretty adamant that this was the time to take him on. Soft ground, first time out. They were not going to have him anywhere near ready, I didn't think. And I think that's true. I know I've seen a few people whose opinion I respect say that it wasn't fitness that caught him out. He's just beaten by a better horse. But I think he's run somewhere like £10 below his best. He ran to about a mark of 164 last year to win this. He's rated 172. I would be surprised if he ran much above 162. And for me, it was definitely tiredness that got him beat. I thought he coped far better with the ground than I anticipated, and perhaps his connections anticipated, because they pulled him out on more than one occasion on the count of soft ground. Jumped beautifully, but I think Harry Cobden would be a devil to play poker against. I think it's very difficult to know what he sat on at times, and just watched him a few times, and you just see if his knees start to go up and down a little bit, even though he's got his backside up in the air, that maybe he's just not sat on all that much, and he definitely was doing that from the back of 2 out, certainly. And a horse that is as good at jumping as Brave Man's Game, he just knows inside out and upside down and back to front exactly what to do at every fence. When if you ever seen him make a mistake, that mistake came from tiredness. He was a little bit long, but he's a smart horse. He knows how to go in short and go in tight if he needs to. But when a horse goes in short and goes in tight, they've got to really compress their body right down. It's like taking your final squat really deep to the floor. When the lactic acid is burning, you just don't want to do that, and you'll look for any other option but to do that squat. I think that's what happened here. I don't think he trusted himself to be able to get down and tight into that fence and have the strength and the power to get up, out and over it. So he elected to go a bit long. He was full of running. He'd have got there. He's got more than enough scope to do that. Landed tired, and just stayed on the same pace. He lost nothing in defeat to my mind. He's been a slow burner for me. He's been a horse that's been hard for me to get on board with. But I think he looked like he's every bit as good as he was last year. I'm sure they'll go straight to Kempton now, and it's going to take a good one to wrestle that King George crown off him. Gentleman's Game, really huge performance by him on just his third chase start. He was, of all the runners in the field, was going to love this testing ground. He's been difficult to train, clearly, been barely seen, had a good couple of seasons over hurdles. But I liked what he did here. He was still fiddly in a few places over his fences, but Dara O'Keefe got him organised, and they got from A to B and at some points. But that means you can only just mark this run up even more. He's bound to improve from this, and this contest and going head to head with Brave Man's Game up the home straight is going to certainly stand him in good stead going forward. I couldn't have him on my mind for a Gold Cup, but that's in March, and there's plenty of races left to be passed between now and then. I thought it was a really good performance. There was no fluke about it in terms of the level he showed. Yes, he might have been up against a slightly below par Brave Man's Game, but they put plenty of distance between him and the third horse, Midnight River, who ran below himself. And I think there's certainly cause for concern with the form of some of the Skelton horses. They're operating at around about 12%, and they had Knickerblock Glory win at Ascot on Saturday. So it's not like they're not having the winners, but for a yard that are normally so consistent, there's certainly a few horses running below themselves there. But take nothing away from the performance of Gentleman's Game. I thought he was really impressive. He'll step forward. I think talk of a Gold Cup is fanciful, but he certainly can win another prize between now and then. And then old Ahoy Senor, what do you say about him and what do you do with him? This isn't his time of year. He's by Dylan Thomas. They all pretty much like better ground, and he certainly didn't get that here. But again, in a pretty much a replica of last year, jumped beautifully at times. But when he gets in tight, he just doesn't know what to do or can't do what's needed to do. His body seems to overtake his legs. The one thing you would say about him is he's for all that he makes some pretty severe mistakes, he's very good at getting his landing gear down and standing up. But he's simply not going to win a top-class chase when he has got the ability to throw in a mistake like that. And it does seem to be that the mistakes come when he gets pressurised, and he's not going to get a freebie out in front now that people know that's the way to get at him. But exciting racing from Wetherby, and I think certainly some good performances. Ascot was the other place I wanted to look at, where there was just the most bizarre novice chase, won by Sissoko, who instantly only got as far as the second fence on his chase debut about a year ago, when Paul Nicholls jumped violently out to the right at the first and then ended up on the floor at the second. He actually jumped very well in this. He made one notable error, but never looked like it bothered him. But compared to the others, Twin Jets, Are You Wise to That, Cruise Control and Scarface just jumped appallingly. Really, really strange to see. But it does happen that when one or two start jumping badly and not staying straight and making mistakes, it distracts these novices, and their own jumping can go apart as well. Are You Wise to That, I think, actually did very well to only be beaten 10 lengths, because he never really had a cut at a single fence. It was all very hard work. John Joe O'Neill was having to use a lot of petrol just to hold his position, because every time he jumped a fence, he was losing lengths and losing his position. Jumped out to his left a lot. I'm sure going back on a left-handed track, he can still prove up to this mark here. As can Jipko. I thought he was really unfortunate to take a tired fall at the last. He's got a really nice forward, free way of going. Perhaps got tired over this 2 mile 4 trip, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him drop back. Perhaps not as far as 2 miles, but if they could find something 2 mile 2, I think that might be absolutely perfect for him. And he's undoubtedly a horse with talent and certainly jumped well. Then on to the 2 mile 1 furlong handicap chase. One in good form by Boot Hill, who travelled really well throughout the contest, jumped smartly, jumped slickly, still had plenty left in the tank, obviously, jumping the last fence, soared out over that, and ran out a deserved winner. I wonder what they'll do with him now. He followed a similar pattern last year, went from Ascot to Sandown and ran in the Scilly Isles, and I just wondered that now they're going to end up in probably about the mid 150s, whether they might just look to have a go at the Tingle Creek, a race that might well cut up in terms of runners. He certainly likes going right-handed. He's certainly adaptable with regards to ground, and a bit of soft Sandown ground won't bother him. And given that that could be a quite small field, I wonder whether they might take that in on the route to finding perhaps another handicap back at Ascot later in the season. Dave Bass, the jockey I've got a huge amount of time, but I have to say I thought he gave a fairly strange ride to First Flow. Seemed content to take a lead for a lot of the race, and I was expecting him to really kick on down the back straight and sort of engage Boot Hill and really start firing First Flow at a few fences, as we've seen him do before when they won the Clarence House chase. That was or the Ascot chase, sorry. That was exactly what he did. Really brave, really strong to fences, and he didn't. He sort of sat and took a lead, and to my mind, just got outsped from the back of the last. I still think First Flow has got a race in him. Whether this is a prep for perhaps the Peterborough Chase or something like that, I'm not sure. But First Flow, I think, is better than he showed here, and I'm not sure that the race was run to suit him. Saint Segal is definitely worthy of mention. He was far too free on his first start, just a 5-year-old. And his jumping was good, albeit a little bit brave at times, and a couple of times he got a bit low and was perhaps a bit fortunate not to sort of get more impacted by some of that jumping. But he got away with it, and given how free he was coming back to them at the line, albeit he was beaten a few lengths. He can definitely find a race of this nature at some point this season, particularly if this run takes the edge off him. Fred Arm travelled beautifully into contention in the home straight under a really nice smuggling ride, and then stopped to absolutely nothing, which again just gives a little bit of weight to the fact that maybe just one or two of the Dan Skelton horses are just a little bit below par. And then finally, sort of a bit of a social media talking horse, really. Red Rookie seems to get tipped up on my social media every time he runs. He's undoubtedly got talent, but I think he's perhaps a bit hard to catch right. To me, he just looked flat to the boards the whole way, and then his jumping, which is good but not spectacular, starts to perhaps feel the pinch, and he throws in a few niggly errors. I'd be interested to see him going up in trip, and whether that would happen or not. He's pretty much raced exclusively at 2 mile 1 furlong, but I would be interested to see whether maybe just going half a gear slower just helps him settle into a rhythm and jump a bit better. And then to finish off with, for me, the highlight of the day, and I know that perhaps sounds a bit bizarre talking about an Ascot bumper, but Celtic Dino absolutely sluiced up in the closing bumper at Ascot for Sam Thomas and Di Walters. I was fortunate enough to see him at Sam Thomas's yard last year. Just saw this gorgeous chestnut horse swinging up the gallops, equine perfection as far as I was concerned. Straight away needed to know from Sam what he was called by Dr. Dino, and a half-brother to Saint Segal. I'd slightly forgotten about him until I saw him entered at Cheltenham last week. He was taken out there, but came to Ascot. And if you watched him canter down to the start, just the most gorgeous horse, wonderful expression about him. Bounced out under Sam Thomas, pricked his ears the whole way, turned into the straight at Ascot and lengthened all the way to the line, to my mind, in the manner of a very talented horse. I'm sure he'll be kept to bumpers this season, and I'm sure Sam won't hurry him, but I thought he was really impressive, and if he wasn't in your tracker before, he should be in your tracker now. So that's the end of episode 4 of the Monday Review. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I haven't missed anything that you think I should have spoken about. If I have, and I've missed off your highlight from the weekend, drop me a message on Twitter or in the comments, and we can discuss it next time. In the meantime, I'll be back tomorrow on Tuesday for Handicap Movers and Shakers, and I'll be back on Wednesday from the Stewards Room. Also this week, if my chat about Brave Man's Game and his jumping interests you, I'm going to put a video together trying to explain in my own words how a horse jumps and how they use themselves affects how they jump. That should be up later this week. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. Hopefully I have a slightly different take on trying to explain jumping to perhaps people that haven't ridden a horse or certainly haven't jumped on a horse. So that'll be up later this week. As ever, do hit a like and a subscribe on this video. Tell your friends if you're enjoying them, and I'll see you tomorrow.